Welcome back to the Greatest Storyteller podcast. I'm your narrator, Omari. Today's story is titled Dating the Drug Dealer. All right, so I'm one who typically errs on the side of caution. I'm the person who is risk adverse in pretty much every area of my life because I really don't like getting in trouble. It's just not for me. I avoid any trouble at all costs. I live a pretty straight laced life that is very vanilla flavored type. That's just me, right? But I can't deny the fact that, I like the bad boy types, right? Like the ones who are a little rough around the edges, that have a little sting to them. And this guy that I met, Jay was just the bad boy I didn't need. So you see, Jay was this very unassuming guy if you were just looking at him. He was somewhat clean cut. He wore glasses, by the way, that were not prescribed. So it was just like, glasses you get off of Amazon or whatever. And he was well spoken. He was gainfully employed. Like everything on the outside seemed fairly normal, right? Jay wasn't this really tall guy, but he was fairly built. You could feel his presence when he entered a space or place, even without him saying a word. He was that type of a person. But at his core, Jay Jay was a dangerous guy. He was very ugly, um, heinous, very evil, and that was all wrapped up in secrets and facades. And he just wasn't the guy he portrayed himself to be. But Jay and I, we were dating, and we were dating maybe about 3 months or so. And I knew Jay to be this hard worker. He was definitely a protector. He was a man that was affectionate, at least towards me, very quiet, but definitely would speak up when necessary. And he typically laid low. Like Jay wasn't this highfalutin, pomp and circumstance type of guy. Like he lived a pretty chill life for at least what I saw, right? Jay never really shared a lot of details about really anything. So, like, for example, I would ask questions around his close confidants or his family, and the man would quickly shut down anything tied to anything close to him, right? He wouldn't even give a reason why he didn't want to share details, but you could tell by the way he would shut things down that you didn't want to follow up. Like you would just leave it alone, let it be, because I've seen Jay and I've seen him when he's upset, and his temper is unreal. He's that kind of guy. So one evening, Jay and I, we were just running the streets, nothing too chaotic. We were just going for a ride in his pickup truck. And this truck, you guys, was really decked out. I'm talking about with all of the bells and whistles. He had tents on the car, probably illegal because you couldn't see anything in or really outside the car, in my personal opinion. The truck set really, really high. There had to be at least 15 speakers throughout the car, upgraded technology throughout. Like this car was the it factor, in my opinion. So Jay and I had stopped for gas, and I was busying myself while Jay was paying for the gas and ultimately pumping it. And so I start looking around the truck innocently, nothing crazy. I'm going through the glove box to see what's in it because I would never rummage through his things. I didn't really have a reason to. Again, I was just busying myself. And I'm going through the center console. And in the center console, I see this really large glot that's sitting on this thick package. Like it's like this square shaped package. And right before I could like move things around, pick things up, I see Jay like rush for the driver's seat side of the door. And he opened the door and he yelled, "What the fuck you doing? Get the fuck out of there." So I'm scared at this point because I'm like, I've never been yelled at like that in my entire life. So I'm like trying to close the console, and Jay is running back to get the gas pump out the car, because at this point, I guess he just couldn't trust me sitting in the car by myself. So he closes the gas tank and hops in the car, and the man is livid. Like the whole car ride home, this man is irate. So he starts screaming, "Don't ever go through my shit. What you trying to get on me? What you think you doing?" I'm like frozen in fear. Like I could feel tears coming down my face because the way the man was talking to me. And I'm like, I don't know what to say. I want to say I was just snooping, but I didn't know how to say it without him getting upset. And so he kept yelling, "The fuck you crying for? You scared?" And something in me believed that Jay wanted to scare me. I can't explain it. I don't know where that feeling came from, but just like the way he said it was almost like a sick enjoyment of one who's fearful, and more specifically fearful of him. So I had asked him softly, right? Because I didn't want to upset him any further. I was like, what's in the console? And I knew, but I didn't know, right? Like I could see the the weaponry is what I will say. And I saw this big brick of whatever. It was white and it was wrapped, and that's all I could see, right? And he chuckled and he was like, I got more of that. And I'm thinking to myself, what does that mean? What does he mean he has more of that? And then he started talking about, I got stuff under my seat. I got stuff in the bed of my truck. I got stuff under your seat. And I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. And I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. Like, what happens if we get stopped by the police? What happens if, I don't know, just all of this stuff is running through my head because I'm really trying to figure out what's under the seat. What's under the seat that I'm sitting in? Because again, I'm a person, I don't want trouble. I'm not looking especially for that type of trouble. So um I could feel this man looking through my soul because it's really quiet at this point. It's just dead silent. It wasn't even music. There was nothing. And I can feel him just looking through me. It was a very eerie feeling. And I just knew not to say anything at that point because I didn't want to disrupt the apple cart. So we got home, and I just remember thinking to myself, I'm not staying here. Like, I'm going to my place. I don't want to be around him. So I'm scared because I don't know how to say I'm not going to stay here without getting him upset even further. More importantly, not knowing how he's going to respond in addition to any yelling. And maybe I'm just overthinking it because he never like raised his hand at me or jerked at me in any kind of way. But I don't know what this man is capable of doing at this point. Just the way he's been talking, the things that I'm noticing that clearly I was just oblivious to. And I sometimes wonder if my willingness to be ignorant to what was going on around me was intentional. Like I may have seen things because the more I would recant and just play back things in my memory, I recall certain things that were off, but I didn't think anything of it because Jay is working. Why would he be doing anything like that's antithetical to someone who gets up to go to a 9 to 5, right? Anyway, so we're back at the house. I'm scared. I don't want to be at the house, but I didn't know how to tell him. So we get into the house, and the man's whole demeanor changed. Like it was like Mr. Jekyll, or what is it, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And it was almost like nothing happened. Like everything that just happened at the gas station, all that happened in the car on the way home was voided. Like it never happened because he was so gentle and almost accommodating. He was like offering to cook dinner and cracking jokes about random stuff. And I remember him like coming up behind me to wrap his arms around my waist, and I flinched because I was scared. It was like, you just yelled and cursed me out on the way home. So again, not knowing what he would do in this moment. And he could feel me flinching. Again, he probably could feel my heart racing. He knew what this was because I assume he's been in this position before. And he had asked me, he was like, "You okay?" And before I could answer, he told me in a really soft voice, I would never do anything to hurt you. Now pause. People who say stuff like that, something is wrong. It's just like and maybe it was just the way he said it. Maybe it was the way he said it and the events that took place prior to, but it just didn't feel right. Nothing about this felt right. But I took a sigh of relief, and internally I wanted to believe that he wouldn't. And so I started to let my guard down, and eventually I decided that I was going to stay. We ate dinner, took our showers, and went to sleep, just given everything that happened earlier in the evening. This is exactly what we needed, just to sleep it off, right? So a couple of weeks went by, and we're at home, and it's a Saturday afternoon. Okay. Jay's house is really nice. And he has in his, I guess you could say, living room area. But he had multiple living rooms, but this area was like lounging where people could come and just like relax. And it's very welcoming. He's a very neat, tidy person. And at the back of this living space, or the living room area, are French doors to the outside patio area, which is really nice, nicely set up with lounge chairs and um, umbrellas. And, the French doors were open where it welcomed the breeze into the living room. It's just effortlessly beautiful, and super calming, really, really calming. Um, and there was something unusual about this calm in the air, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But everything just seemed so perfect, right? Jay's sleeping peacefully on the couch, and I'm just rummaging through my phone while the TV's playing in the background. And then, guys, out of nowhere, I hear this loud boom. And I hear foot tracks, a bunch of feet just running throughout the house. And there were like 6 cops rushing towards the living room area. And all I hear is police, everybody freeze, don't move, don't move. And I mean, when I tell you I'm freaking the fuck out, everything was moving so fast. Like I couldn't take what was happening. I couldn't take it in. I was trying to make sense of it, but I was just so confused. I'm like bordering crying because I'm just that type of person. I'm scared, y'all. I'm scared. So the police kept yelling, and they're at this point they're in the living room, the guns are everywhere, and they're like, get your hands where I can see them, put them in the air. And so we both have our hands in the air, and I see Jay out the corner of my eye. And like it's almost as if he knew this was coming. And it was a brief like view, because at this point the police is now trying to detain both of us, and they eventually throw us both at the on the floor, put us in handcuffs. And one of the officers, I could hear one of the officers ask Jay his name, and Jay tells him his legal name. And from a different area in the house, I hear another officer yell, "Found the stash! Found the stash!" And I'm thinking, the fuck? What stash? We in a circle. I don't listen. I grew up in a bubble. I don't know what stash means. I mean, I know what it means, but I'm in this moment. What the fuck is a stash? right? So I'm scared. And I then hear the officer who's talking to Jay say to him, "You're under arrest." And after that, just everything went silent. Like I don't remember anything after that. So now my entire life has flashed before my eyes. I'm now trying to figure out in my head, am I under arrest too? Um, am I being accused of being an accomplice in this whole shenanigan scenario? Am I going to jail? Is someone going to take my booty? Like, I'm having all of these real concerns. Bottom line, I was eventually not held criminally liable for any of what Jay had going on. And the rabbit hole goes really deep with that, so deep that it's just things I simply cannot share here. All I know is Jay had the moral compass to tell the police I wasn't involved in any of the shit he had going on. And I guess I could appreciate that, but I was let go and came out of that entire situation unscathed. It was costly to me, right? Because there were, again, there's just things I cannot talk about. But needless to say, I never communicated with Jay after his arrest. I honestly don't know where he's at in his life. I suspect he's still sitting in jail, but I really don't know. So, what's the moral of the story here? In my mind, the moral of the story is a house of secrets will eventually fall. Jay was the guy who held all of his cards close to the vest. Jay was a chameleon. He lived this double life where he was this quote unquote honest, hardworking man during the day, but really a con artist doing sinister things at night. And for his own reasons, he kept me and I suspect others at an arm's length from all of what he was doing. And quite frankly, I really don't have any reason to explore the why behind that. I'm just glad that I wasn't caught up, that I didn't know the things that was going on, because I probably would be where Jay is at. But I will say, in taking accountability for my own actions, where I went wrong was not having the strength to walk away when I knew in my gut things weren't right, especially after that whole gas station situation. Because from the incident that happened at the gas station, there were weeks in between that incident and when the cops came bomb rushing this man's house. So there was time for me to really fully digest what happened, what I saw, what I experienced, and walked away, never to come back. But I didn't do it. And not to make excuses, but that's easier said than done. It doesn't matter though. Um, at the end of the day, it's important to watch the company you keep, because you could end up in a situation that you didn't ask for. And for some people, you can't get out of. Thanks for listening. Share your thoughts on this story. Also, be sure to check out some of the other great stories on the Greatest Storyteller podcast.